we talk about the trends, there are multiple factors here. So we want to look at technologies like blockchain. And I'm not talking from a cryptocurrency perspective necessarily. That's going to be a big deal. However, there is significant challenges in that particular area, mainly around things like compliance, the legal aspect. However, when we look at blockchain, we see much more potential outside of the cryptocurrency space. We see it in having trustworthy communications between things like automobiles. So when we get into more of an autonomous vehicle type of environment, we've got companies like Toyota that's partnering with MIT University to make the default protocol out of the vehicle be blockchain. And those technologies will interact with those banks in a trustworthy way. So that's one example of many examples in which blockchain is going to help financial services organizations around the world have trusted communications between other banks, between their customers, and the many, many devices out there, whether it be a phone or an IoT device. Second key technology is machine learning. And what we're finding is there is going to be, and there is today, and we see this disruption, a sea change in how we think about both how we run our IT business, but also our business as a whole. So it's fundamentally changing how we do our job. So if you take a bank like Bank of America is using machine learning technology coupled with virtual assistant technology to create a net new customer experience with their customers. You got to remember, we are now in an interesting time in which millennials will be 45% of the workforce. By 2030, they will be 75% of the workforce. And so we have to understand, what do those types of individuals want from their technology services, whether they work for you as a company or they're buying your products and services? 73% of millennials would rather go to a dentist than go to a bank branch. So that gives you kind of a perspective of how this community views those traditional models. But that's one of many examples in the machine learning space. The third key technology trend is centered around ecosystems and understanding that we live within an ecosystem in which we have edge-based devices, in which we're going to have these technologies come to us. We're not going to be pushing these technologies out to our customers anymore. So those are the three key technology trends that we see in the financial services space. Now keep in mind, these trends are all interrelated. And so banks, insurance companies, capital markets firms, they're going to mix and match these technologies. Well, how they're changing and how they're shifting is they're changing how you interact with financial services organization. They're making it much more fluid, much more engaging through mobile technology. We're not looking at the web-based technologies necessarily as the entry point. The e-commerce days, they're gone. Now we're talking about pushing these services to the edge. The one-click Amazon model, as an example. How do we make this as frictionless as possible? So banks are investing in creating scenarios on how to reinvent their processes so that they can make it easier for these organizations seeing the threats. You know, like digital assistants that will proactively look at your bank account and make recommendations based on your spending habits and create predictive models around what it would look like if you continue along those lines. And so it's about the experience, it's about being proactive, and it's about being frictionless. I believe, and based on what the evidence is showing, based on what our clients are telling us, is that while the majority of their solutions will be tailored to that specific segment of the industry, there's also another dynamic that I'd encourage you to think about. Age demographics. So the baby boomer generation is retiring. The Gen Xers will retire shortly after that. Now we've got the millennials that are populating the workspace. However, we will have the largest age group in the world will be people over 60 years old. There is global prosperity, there's great healthcare and great technology to help these folks. And so the leading financial services organizations understand in key markets, let's say Japan. In Japan, 40% of the population will be over 60 by 2040. That's a big number. That is a huge segment of an audience that you want to be able to attach to. So these leading organizations, they see that as the trend, especially if those are geographies in which they are tailoring their products and services to. And so we have to be keenly aware of not just focusing on the technology, but understanding the political trends, the economic trends, the demographic trends, to understand how do we create more tailored types of processes and products for our customer.